Who pays for my car accident settlement? If you would like to go to our website, texascaraccidents.com, you could answer 5 questions to see if you have a case, and one of our friendly experts simplifying Texas car accidents will be there for you. So the first thing to confirm is who is at fault for the accident. This could be another driver. You could be an innocent passenger in a vehicle that was at fault. Maybe there was city signage that was not put in the proper spots, or the roads were not properly taken care of. It could be a construction zone where the construction zone did not put out proper signage, or people that worked there didn't direct traffic accordingly. We've had a case before where a log came out of the back of someone's truck and caused an accident. We've had another case where a cow got out of their farmer's property, walked out onto the highway, and caused an accident. I saw a case in the news the other day where a small plane came out of the sky and caused an accident. Now, of course, a lot of these situations are pretty extreme, and most of the time you're just going to be involving another vehicle, or possibly even multiple vehicles, where multiple vehicles are at fault for your accident. But the primary goal here and the bottom line is, who is responsible for the accident that you were in? As I mentioned before, sometimes there's multiple parties that are at fault for your accident, so you can end up getting 2, 3, and in rare occurrences, 4 different settlements coming on one case. For example, let's say that you're an innocent passenger in a vehicle that runs a red light. However, the other vehicle that was involved in the accident could have done more to prevent the accident. Maybe they didn't run the red light, but they saw your vehicle on its way through the red light, and instead of trying to take precautionary measures and slowing down or stopping, they continue to keep on going, putting both insurance companies in position now where the vehicle that you're in may pay 100% of your claim, but then the other vehicle may add like a nuisance value onto your accident settlement. Of course, there are situations where maybe you are in a vehicle where the other driver is at fault, but then your airbag doesn't go off. These are rare occurrences, but it does happen where the airbags malfunction, they don't go off, and maybe you can make the case that if the airbag had went off, you wouldn't have been as injured as you are now from this accident. And in that situation, you can go after the other driver who caused the accident, and then you could go after the car manufacturer or the airbag manufacturer to add extra settlement on top of the case. Again, the bottom line is you want to determine all the possible at-fault parties, put them, in front of you on a desk and say, okay, this person's at fault for sure. Maybe this company or person is at fault, or this one. You put it all on the table and you say, okay, here's all the people or companies or things that I think are at fault. Now the next question becomes is, who has insurance to cover my damages, whether it's property damage or injury damage? You want to see who has insurance to see who is going to pay for this case. Now, if the at-fault parties were involved in a car accident, whether you were a passenger or you were driving and another vehicle was at fault, most of the time you can get the insurance information at the scene. If you are not able to get the insurance information at the scene, the hope is that you got police involved, and then when the accident report becomes available, you can get the insurance information of the at-fault party or parties off the accident report. Now, in a situation like we were in where the cow caused the accident, sometimes you have to do a little bit more investigative work to find out which insurance company you can go after. In this specific circumstance with the cow, the police were able to identify who owned the cow, and then we were able to run a search on this individual to find out if his company had insurance to protect him in a situation like this. We actually didn't use auto insurance in this situation. We went after the cow owner's land insurance or business insurance to cover this case. And it doesn't always work out, but in this specific circumstance, we did get liability accepted, and they agreed that they're going to pay for a car accident settlement through the insurance policy. Sometimes it doesn't go as smooth, and a heavy investigation is needed to try to determine if the at-fault party or at-fault parties have auto insurance or any type of insurance that will help you cover this accident settlement. We have a pretty crazy case right now that will show you that if you flip over every stone possible, sometimes you end up finding an insurance policy or some type of pocket to go after. This case came across my desk. This individual told me that he had a previous lawyer that could not find insurance on his case, so he dropped his case. This individual then went and called and knocked on a bunch of other lawyers' offices, and they all denied his case and rejected it because they didn't think that there was a pathway forward. They didn't think that there was a possible insurance policy to go after, or they just didn't want to spend the time and energy and money to investigate this to see if there was. Now, I'm the type that if anything comes across my desk, I'm flipping over every stone possible. So let me tell you about this really incredible, probably in the over decade that I've been doing this, this is probably the most exciting one that worked out to have insurance policy available when no one else thought that there was. This individual was rear-ended on a street. His car then went off the road, hit a tree. The car caught on fire, and this individual was seriously injured. Now, the person that was driving the vehicle that caused the accident did not have auto insurance. And when we got the accident report confirmed that this driver or vehicle did not have auto insurance. And now I'll tell you, I would say 95% plus of the time that if the police put on the accident report that there's no insurance, that's usually the case. Now, in this circumstance, we decided to hire an outside research company because there are companies out there that could try to run traces to see if an individual has auto insurance. We hired this company to see if they could find a policy for this vehicle or for this driver, and they came back with a policy. I was actually completely shocked when the results came in and they're like, yeah, actually call this insurance company right here. They should have a policy for it. So I'm like, all right, this research company has messed up before in the past, but I'm going to see it through. So I call the insurance company and they say, we don't have that vehicle and we don't have that driver. However, we do see another name that could be associated with the driver of that vehicle. So then I had to do my own investigative work to find out that the owner of the vehicle was someone different than the driver. Then I told the insurance company the name of the owner of the vehicle, and they're like, is there a possible different last name? So I ran further research to find out that the owner of the vehicle had just been married recently, so her name had changed, and she had an insurance policy under her married name. And for whatever reason, the police weren't able to determine whether the vehicle had insurance or not, maybe because of the name kind of crossed through their system, or this other thing that we found out where she had recently moved. So it's very likely that the vehicle was in one specific address in a different state, and then when she moved to Texas, the vehicle and her married name didn't show up in the police system, so the police report showed no insurance when there actually was insurance on the car. So we see it through, and the insurance company tells us, well, on our end, we don't see that the vehicle that was being driven at the time is on this policy, so it's likely going to be denied. Do you still want to file the claim? I told them, yes, absolutely. I want to still file the claim because I'm going to see this through and I'm going to get a denial from the insurance company if that's truly what they believe is the case here. So we send in the notice, we file the claim, and a couple days later, we get a letter that says liability is accepted, coverage is accepted. We have an active policy here, and our client now, who's already been rejected by multiple lawyers, now has a pathway forward for his case. What we think happened is similar to what we think happened with the police, where because this person just had moved to the state and they had just married, there were things that got crossed over at the insurance company where when I was doing the intake, the person at the company didn't think that there was a pathway forward, but then they probably were able to look a little bit closer to some new information that was on the insurance policy, and then they checked it off that there was available coverage. This was just so incredible, really, and I was so thankful for the person that we signed up because they were seriously injured. I mean, they had broken legs. They had over $500,000 in medical bills. Like, this was such a really terrible situation for this person. He was in a wheelchair and there was no pathway forward for him. But then we were able to find a pathway forward, and that was just greatly encouraging. I'm glad that we were able to help this person. Now, I just mentioned that he had $500,000 in medical bills, and we found an insurance policy. So there is a further question of the kind of limits that are available on that insurance policy to cover this accident, and I'm going to talk about that shortly. But the next thing that I'm going to mention here is, what if you just don't find insurance? You've done everything possible to try to find insurance, and you're not getting as blessed as we were in this specific case where we were able to find insurance. If you determine that the at-fault parties do not have insurance, the next step here is to check your policy to see if you have protection against uninsured drivers. This specific coverage is called under or uninsured motorist coverage for bodily injury, and it could cover your medical bills, your lost wages, your pain and suffering. It's just like you're going after the other driver, except you're using your own policy to do it. If you call your insurance company and ask them to send you a copy of your declaration page, they should be able to email this to you, and then yourself, or if you get involved with a law firm, they could take a look at this declaration page to see what kind of available coverage you have that may protect you in this circumstance where the at-fault parties don't have insurance. Now, if you don't have protection against uninsured drivers, there are rare occurrences where you can see if someone in your household possibly has protection against uninsured drivers, and you can come under that insurance policy. There's tricky ways to try to go after these insurance policies. And, that's why when you do get a good law firm involved, they could do these kind of searches and they could jump through these types of hoops to try to see and be really sure that there is no possible insurance coverage for you. So if you have someone in your household that has potential insurance that may protect you here, you could check that out. You could see if you have any type of umbrella auto insurance that would cover you in a situation like this. Maybe you have life insurance, and because of the way this accident happened, your life insurance or some other type of insurance that you have will cover the accident. You want to flip over as many stones as possible to confirm. Now, of course, if you have searched high and low and the at-fault parties don't have insurance and you don't have any pathway forward with insurance, the only thing left that you could do is file a lawsuit against the at-fault parties, which, unless they have major assets to go after, it's a very uphill battle. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. And most law firms are not going to do that if they don't see that there's a pathway forward with assets that could actually pay this settlement at the end of it. And then as well, there's something called the Texas Crime Victims Compensation Program, where you can apply for the state to possibly help you out with your case settlement. They take everything by a case-by-case basis. So it is limited of whether they will approve you or not. But again, you could try to flip over every stone possible to see if they will. Now, as I mentioned before, I was talking to you briefly about policy limits when it came to that case that I gave you an example of. He had over $500,000 in medical bills, so you have to now verify how much money is on the insurance policy. So you find out who's at fault, you find out if the at-fault party has insurance, but then you also need to find out how much available money is on that insurance policy. Research companies can come in handy here where they could try to find out how much policy limit someone has. The insurance company may tell you if you could prove to them that you already have massive medical bills, to give them permission to just say, yeah, we understand you have $500,000 in medical bills. I'm just letting you know now we only have a minimum limits policy. Now, a minimum limits policy in Texas is $30,000 per person, $60,000 per accident, which means if you're the only person involved in the accident, you only have that $30,000 to go after. If you have multiple people in the vehicle, then you have up to $60,000 to split it between everyone that was injured in the accident. Not everyone has a minimum limits policy. The next step from 30-60 would be 50-100, and then it would be 100-300. Sometimes they have 300 or 500 combined limits, or even up to $1 million or more than $1 million in limits. So now, at least in our circumstance, we had someone with $500,000 in medical bills, so we need to find out how much the insurance policy is on the other side. I was actually surprised once again in this case when we got the results back that said that there was $100,000 in policy limits. So when you have a case like this where you have over $500,000 in medical bills and there's only $100,000 policy limits, most of the time the insurance company will just say, here you go, I'm not even going to fight with you on this. This guy was clearly injured. He clearly has an incredible amount of medical bills that go above our policy limits. So here's our policy limits. Okay, so that's a great first start. But now you have a $100,000 settlement, but you have over $500,000 in medical bills. So the next step that you need to take is you need to go back to all of those medical providers and ask them for reductions on the bills so that you can get the medical bills below the policy limits to pay for all the medical bills, pay for the legal fees, and then to also walk away with a pain and suffering settlement, which you absolutely deserve if you've been through a situation like this. Now, we'll talk about reducing medical bills in another video, but of course, if you get involved with a law firm, you can absolutely get someone that is experienced and being able to reduce medical bills where they can reduce the medical bills down so low that even after paying their legal fees, it was still worth it to get them involved instead of you doing it on your own. Now, lastly, not all of these cases are easy to settle where you just have this incredible amount of medical bills and a policy limits that makes it easy to settle the case. You know, you may have $20,000 in medical bills and a $100,000 policy, but the insurance company decides that they're just going to offer you $25,000. Well, now you really need to understand what is the true value of my case. Now, there are many different factors that play a part in the value of someone's case. If you want to check out this video right here, 10 steps to find out what my case is worth, I hope that this video was helpful to you. You can go to our website, texascaraccidents.com, and find out a load of information of everything that you would need to know about Texas car accidents, and you can answer 5 questions to determine if you have a case, and one of our friendly experts in simplifying Texas car accidents will be there for you.